Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Heretical Weekends, number 24, Muslims and Other Musings. I am here currently today with Gabba Guy and Floyd FP, who graced us with his presence once again. And I believe we are going to touch upon Muslims in the Great Debate community and their presence so far. Um, if Turtle ever gets in here, we opted to talk for. There may be some Star Wars talk. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it.
I don't want any spoilers. I
Exactly. We didn't know who saw it.
I got to see it just this morning.
I don't want to hear a thing about it.
Yeah, it was good. That's all I'll say then. Leading into the Muslim thing, the current, I think it was Virginia County school systems that were shut down due to a lesson on Islamic calligraphy. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. But Floyd was touching upon something. We were discussing actually Presupp on the what do you call that? The pre-room, pre-live hangout kind of thing.
Before we went live.
Before we went live, and it ended up being kind of an interesting conversation. And Floyd was schooling us on some things, teaching us some things. So, okay, Floyd, what would if you don't mind rewinding, if you can touch back to your thought real quick, we can keep going.
Well, yeah, I mean, one argument and I would like to talk about Islam, Muslims. I think that's interesting. But I guess getting back to the Presupp, one argument that they, not only presuppositionists, but Christians will bring up, saying, well, if evolution is true, evolution being physicalism / materialism / naturalism is true, then we're just a bag of chemicals, and hard determinism is most likely true, because the way we are is just determined by natural forces of physics and chemistry and so forth. So you really can't reason or rely on your reasoning. And this is kind of like close to Alvin Plantinga's evolutionary argument against naturalism, that if our reasoning is only coming from the neurochemical firings in our brain, then we can't know, we can't reason anything really, because they're just coming from chemical reactions, and there's this new presupper on the block named Darwin's Deity / Evolution's False / Stephen J. Folds or whatever, which is a take on Stephen J. Gould, the late famous biologist. He gave an example of where doctors would give you anesthesia for necessary surgery, but they tell you when you come out of it, you're going to think everyone wants to kill you. So but you have to take it. So you get the anesthesia, and sure enough, you think everyone's trying to kill you and so forth. So therefore, your reasoning was simply based on chemicals, and it has nothing to do with truth. So therefore, determinism. If determinism is true, then you can't really have any reason and so forth. And I heard arguments like that before. I heard arguments from like Greg Bonson claim, well, if naturalism is true, we're nothing but a bag of DNA. We're just or even hear Saitan Bruggencate say, if atheism is true, it's just one bottle fizzing and another bottle fizzing, and that's it. But that seems like just a fallacy of composition and naive reductionism. It's like saying a computer is just a bunch of silicone, plastic, and metal with electricity flowing through it. How can it compute? Well, arranged a certain way, it can do those things, obviously. Now as far as, okay, his example of, the anesthesia or any chemical, it doesn't be anesthesia, it could be just some sort of drug or something to cause you delusions. And, powerful drugs will do it. Psychedelic drugs will cause hallucinations and so forth. And even in cases of mental illness, for example, schizophrenics, they have a chemical imbalance in their brain, and they'll have paranoid delusions, they'll have hallucinations, they'll hear voices, sometimes in a very extreme manner. So if that's the case, how can we reason at all? But the thing you got to realize is those chemicals are inputs, right? And that is how we reason. It's just not we're a closed system, and there's all this chemistry taking place in our brains, and that's all that's happening. We have senses. We're taking in inputs, and we're reacting to them. So in the case of the chemicals, okay, those chemicals are causing a change in your brain chemistry, but you're not. That person didn't come to that conclusion. Those chemicals were the source of it, were the beginning source of it to create those thoughts. So you're not reasoning to those thoughts. That the drugs are the causal mechanism of those thoughts, and then from there you're gonna reason from there. So for example, if you have the thoughts everyone's gonna kill you, and then someone walks into your room, okay, you're now going to react to that person, right? But it was based on the pre-assumption that everyone's going to try to kill you. Now, of course, that reasoning's wrong, but you have to ask, well, is all brain chemistry going to cause you to reason wrong? Is the way we evolved always going to produce wrong beliefs? In fact, could our species survive if we've always had wrong beliefs? If we had the wrong beliefs about falling off a cliff, people, a whole bunch of humans would be, or any animal would be falling off a cliff, killing themselves, and not being able to reproduce. So the people, the species that did have a lot of false beliefs, which would cause an early death, which we couldn't reproduce, well, that sort of thinking would be wiped out, and evolution would select for those species that would reason enough to survive, so those genes go on. So I think the evolutionary model, it would select for more correct thinking than non-correct thinking. Now, of course, evolution's a blind process, right? A lot of creationists think, oh, evolution is we're evolving to perfection. No, that's not the case at all. All evolution says is if you live long enough to reproduce, your genes are going to go on. Now, if you don't live long enough, if you're not adaptable enough, if you're not fit enough to survive in your environment, then you're going to die out. Well, through millions of years of evolution, we evolved to where we are today, and of course, we do have false beliefs like religion, or seeing mirages, or often, the example is given, we're scared of the dark, right? Because it's better to be afraid of the dark because you don't know what's there. There might be some predator that's going to, eat you, rather than being trusting of the dark. So we have these fears of the dark and so forth, and it selects for that because it's better to be safe than sorry, so to speak, even though some of those beliefs might be to the extreme.
When Saitan uses that example about the soda, he always says he always breaks it down, and then to a bottle of Pepsi, fizzing with a bottle of Mountain Dew, and then at the end of his little speech he says it's brain barf. And another thing that they say a lot of in their teachings is, or if they're debating somebody, is they refer to people as, well, if we're just molecules in motion, or we're just sacks of meat, what's wrong with something? What's wrong with one sack of meat harming another sack of meat, or another bag of molecules, harming another bag of molecules?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
we're a construct of molecules that can do many great things, and has sentience, has feelings. We have goals, purposes. Uh, we have empathy. Uh, we have biological needs and so forth. Now, a dead piece of meat does not have that, but we do. So, to say
what do
we're
you
merely molecules, no, we're not merely molecules. We're molecules arranged a certain way in which we have all those additional attributes.
Right. All right. So, in short, the Presupp is ineffective and sucks. Is that?
Yeah.
To me, there are just so many different ways that it could actually that it's shown to be bad. It boggles my mind almost how people can just buy into it without question.
Well, for a lot of people, they bring up these philosophical and scientific issues, and if you've never been exposed to them before, if you never gave them a lot of thought, they can really stump you. If you never thought about them before, and they lead you down a path, and like this new guy, Darwin's deity, he'll ask you a lot of questions, and he'll lead you down a path. And if you're not up to speed in some of these things, you might just say, well, yes, that sounds reasonable, and that sounds reasonable, and he's leading you down a rabbit hole, and then before you know it, he got you. Gotcha.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's persuaded by it. If you already believe it, it's something that you can like pull out to say, hey, this is why I believe, because not believing is just madness, and here's an argument that says that. And even if you are not equipped to respond to it on an intellectual level, it's if you don't believe it already, you're not likely to find it persuasive. And I think it's just one of those things that you get stumped by maybe, and walk away thinking there's something wrong with that, but I can't put my finger on it. And either you shelf it and forget about it, or you might pursue something later and figure it out.
Right. It'll take studying and so forth, but that's not their goal. They're not. They don't go into it honestly. They offer no intellectual charity when you have discussions with them. They're just trying to pawn you and win a debate.
Right.
They're trying to look superior, and they want to walk away looking like they won the debate, and so they can their goal is basically come off looking good, look like they're the rational ones, you're the irrational ones.
Right.
If you don't know these topics, well, they're more educated than you. You're the dumb atheist, and I'm the educated Christian. So they come off looking good, you come off looking bad.
Yeah, but what I notice is a lot of these guys that just take buy the Sci-10 DVD, they only kind of know the script, but beyond that, they really don't know any of the subject matter itself too deeply. So when they run across someone that kind of knows of any, a little something, or maybe it's on that like intermediate level, it kind of crumbles pretty fast.
Yeah, I brought up with Darwin's deity. He asked me a very deceptive question, saying, "Can the laws of logic be different somewhere else in the universe?" And I try to explain to him the laws of logic abide in all possible worlds, just not this one, but all possible worlds, even fictitious ones. So to ask, could they be different in some other part of the universe, is acting like the laws of logic are like the laws of physics. That could gravity not exist somewhere in the universe, or could the laws of physics be radically different in a different universe and so forth? That could be the case, and if it was the case, science would study it. But logic is not that. The laws of logic under whatever logical system you're using abide in all logically possible worlds. So the question is this ill-formed? He's pretty much asking, is logic logical? And I pointed out to him. He said, "Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not." And I tried to explain to him, well, there's different forms of logic. There's first order predicate logic. There's second order predicate logic. There's fuzzy logic, modal logic. There's many forms of logic, and some of them don't start with the same axioms or have no axioms at all. But that's not part of the script, right? So he couldn't respond to that, and he just went back to his script, assuming the only thing to consider is Aristotelian logic. And Dave S. actually had this conversation with him yesterday as well. And you know, no, it's not part of the script. So he's just going to push it to the side and then just continue on and ask questions like, "Is that true?" You know, assuming there's only, you know, it's just two cases, true or false, which is back to assuming Aristotelian logic. So you know,
you could be wrong about that.
Yeah,
could you be wrong about that? Or but you conceded you could be a brain into that. So you know.
Yeah.
I always call that the Presupp reset button. You know, when they get deep into something and they sort of start losing out on the argument, they immediately go back to what could you wrong about that? You know, and it's just like they just reset like 3 steps back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. When stuck, just retreat to skepticism. If you're losing a debate, that's what you can do. If you're losing any debate, doesn't matter what it is, just retreat to skepticism.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agreed with the Gava guy on that. It's not very persuasive. Like, even if you can't counter it, you still walk away going, you have 2 thoughts in your head. You go, wow, that guy was an asshole. And 2, I'm not persuaded by this argument. I can't figure out why.
Yeah, I mean, like when you first hear the modal ontological argument, or even Anselm's ontological argument, you know, when you hear it, you immediately think this is bullshit. You know, this is bullshit. but you can't put your finger on what the exact problem is.
Yeah.
You really got to start, you know, digging deeper to really find out what's going on. And I remember years ago, you know, Ozzy explained the ontological argument, and he sold it. He sold it. You know, he starts out presenting the argument, and he sells it as though it's a really good argument and explains it. And when you bring up, you know, your immediate objections, you know, he says, "Oh, well, that's wrong because this," and you know, he makes you think, "Oh, you know, this is a really good argument," and you're sitting there saying, you know, "Boy, I can't defend this, but I know this is bullshit. I just know it is. I mean, this doesn't make sense." And then eventually he'll start bringing up the real problems of it and so forth. But you know, if Ozzy wasn't being honest, he was just a Christian apologist, you know, he would only present that one side, shoot down all your bad arguments, and then after 2 hours declare victory and leave. And okay, who comes off looking better, him or you? He does, right?
Yeah.
He won the debate.
You know, my experience studying philosophy in college, that was, I think, the true mark of the best professors was that they would present arguments even when they didn't agree with the argument. They would give it, you know, present it in its most robust and you know, they would present it as if it was their own and that they were invested in it. And I came away from a number of different classes believing that my professors were Christians because, you know, for a number of reasons, but one, they presented the arguments for the existence of God in ways that led me to believe, well, they must really believe this because that was the thing. And that was one of the reasons why my I found the what is it, God's Not Dead movie so laughable because that was so completely alien to my experience sitting in a philosophy classroom with professors that I later found out were all atheists. None of my philosophy professors were believers, but they all did their very best to present the arguments in their truest and most, like I said, most robust form.
Yeah. So, all you need to know is just enough to fool people. So again, it's a case of the green belt who have learned some stuff fooling the white belts who have never been exposed to this. Where a good teacher who's a black belt will know the arguments for and against. He'll he'll know the strengths and weaknesses of each side, and he took time to understand both sides, and it can offer good reasons, to refute it. But but they're not. The apologists aren't interested in that sort of level of honesty. They again, they just want to know enough just to be able to fool the less educated.
I think one of the good, hey guys, I think one of the good things it does though is it puts us on the defensive, kind of where we have to almost have the burden of proof, sort of.
Yeah, it makes us do research and have to study more.
That's what I was going with that. We do the same thing with them about evidence, and of course, it never goes anywhere. I think we should actually kind of rise to it and brush up on our basic philosophy a little more and be able to answer.
Yeah. Well, I brought up the example before we went live. I brought up the example. What if a flat earther comes up to you and says, well, why do you believe in a round Earth? And you respond, oh, well, everyone believes a round Earth. What are you talking about? Is that a good answer?
Exactly.
No. Yeah, you better do some homework and offer some good reasons why you think the Earth is round.
Well, so much. Oh, go ahead.
Let me ask you this: did you see the debate that Matt Slick had with Dillahunty, where they were talking about the laws of logic? And correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it seems like they were going in circles rather if to call them conceptual or physical. And Dillahunty didn't want to call them conceptual, but he couldn't give them the third category of what you would call them. Can y'all tell me what the problem with calling them conceptual would be?
Well, there's kind of two levels we're talking about here. We're talking about the human application of logic and the verities in which they refer to. So the application of logic is indeed conceptual. Logic is talking about the relationship of concepts, A and not A. And what is A? It's irrelevant, right? It's just a concept in your mind. It doesn't matter what A is. You just have A and not A. But out in reality, we can say a rock is a rock, right? And a rock is not a non-rock. We're talking about the law of non-contradiction here, the law of identity, and so forth. So, but the logical inferences, the laws of logic are indeed conceptual. It's the application. Think of a standard modus ponens syllogism argument. One, if I jump into the pool, I will get wet. Two, I jump into the pool. Three, therefore, I got wet. If A, then B, A, therefore B. Okay, now that argument I just gave, that is conceptual, right? That inference I just did was all in my mind, right? It's conceptual. Now, out in reality, though, what happens? Well, in reality, no logical inference takes place. It's just that someone dove into the pool and got wet, and that was it. But you can apply that argument to something completely it's completely fiction, and it still applies. If I jump into the pool, the moon is made of green cheese. I jump into the pool, therefore the moon is made of green cheese. That's a logically valid argument. It's not logically sound. For it to be sound, that the first both premises have to be true. But it's necessarily logically valid because of what if and then mean. And like the law of non-contradiction abides because of the truth tables of what and not means. If there was no not, there would be no law of non-contradiction. A cannot be A and not A at the same time in the same sense.
Would you say
but-
that it's contingent upon the universe?
No.
Well,
No.
and I think that the reason that Matt Dillahunty was hesitant to grant the conceptual kind of label to the laws of logic is because I think the argument there that the presuppositionalists would throw back at them would be, well, you have to have a mind in order for concepts to exist, and if the laws of logic are eternal, which I think Matt Dillahunty had granted him, you would have to have an eternal mind, and that's where this was not Matt. This was Matt Dillahunty and Matt Slick, right? Is that was the conversation?
Yeah, and I think you're right about that too.
Yeah, and so he was saying, well, I don't know. I don't think that they're conceptual. I don't think that they're material. I don't know what they are. And Matt's kind of rejoinder to him or counter example was, okay, is your God material? Is your God conceptual? No. What is he? And Matt Slick said, well, I don't know. So there was the counter example. You want to claim that you have this being that's out there that's neither conceptual nor material. What is he? And Matt Slick couldn't provide the answer there.
Are you saying that you don't think the laws of logic are conceptual?
I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like they are. To me, it seems like they're conceptual in the same way language is conceptual. I don't think that things. The reality that we experience is not dependent upon the terms and ideas that we use to map it, so that we can make sense of the reality, and I don't think that without our minds that contradictions would be possible, but I don't think that. I don't think that the concepts that we use to articulate and to talk about these laws and concepts would exist without us.
I agree with that.
Is it any different than 1 + 1 = 2? Now, if no minds existed, would it still be true that 1 + 1 = 2?
Yes, it
See,
would be.
this is where I would disagree, and y'all can convince me on this. It seems like we're overcomplicating it. I think we're confusing the map for the place. And when we say the word one plus the word one is the word two, that's an English construction. So when I think of the laws of logic, I think of literally this is the language, this is the description. Not what's real, but this is how we talk about it. It's the map.
Right.
Well, the math, you got to understand about math. It's quantifiable in the sense of it's a value. You just asked a really good question. Would 1 + 1 = 2 still be there if we wasn't? Well, yes. It's just there would be nobody to count it. That would be the problem at this point. It would still be there, but there would be no observation of the quantifiable one value and the other quantifiable one value. So yeah, it would still exist.
It's not about the one value. Where would the two be? We can get there would be single objects, which you're calling one, but where would the two be?
Well, the two in this would be the outcome of our own existence at this point, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. But the two would be us quantifying one and one to go, well, there's now two. This does require a mind. I mean, a tree doesn't do it, right? It does require a mind to come up with the conclusion. So that is very poignant in this regard.
Yeah. Say you have 2 oranges on the table, Okay, 1 plus 1 orange is 2 oranges. But what is the relevance of the 2 oranges? What's the meaning or the importance of the 2 oranges on the table? Surely there's more than 2 oranges in the universe, right? Those 2 oranges are only meaningful to the observer looking at the 2 oranges. So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
relative. It's like saying, to the left of, right? Well, it is the case that something can be to the left of something else, but that's in relationship to the observer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we're important in this case.
And when
Yeah.
Matt Slick said that he didn't think that you could make a truth statement without a mind, I sort of agreed with him. Right? See, California would exist without a map. The land which we call California would exist without the word California, without the map. Right? So the reality that we're describing would still exist, but I think we overcomplicate it when we act as if the laws of logic have some sort of existence without us.
Well, the laws of this is the okay. Laws of logic are not kind of inherently based on humans being here. The universe made us, not the other way around. Right? We know what logic is because we're interacting with the environment, not the other way around. Okay, so we know that things do things regardless if we're here or not. We know that because shit existed before we did. Pardon my French. So in that regards, logic was a discovery of patterns, really, and the pattern is how to understand. I wouldn't say answers per se, but a way to understand a path to an answer. Doesn't matter if the answer is right or wrong. It's how you get there is what logic does best. It gives you a set of principles in order for you to come to a conclusion. That's all. So when people say it's logically true that God doesn't exist, that's kind of bad mathematics, shall we say? Because that logic doesn't give you an answer in that regard. It just tells you whether you've malformed the question or not. Much like philosophy, actually.
Yeah, it's just telling you whether an argument is logically valid or not.
It's like me asking Floyd what color ice cream does he like, and then when he'll give me the answer unicorns. That's not coherent, right? So it has to be coherent in order for us to both understand what's going on.
I've seen Floyd give that answer.
Probably to somebody who asked a stupid question.
Well, I wanted to take the time out to welcome the new people in the room. Fox came in, Helena Handbasket came in, Hugh came in. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Stizer, of course. The Wolf King is back, and Xbox Fiend. So I wanted to welcome everybody. We started out the hangout with Presupp, and so when I posted the public, that was the current topic at the time. We got into the laws of logic. Because we fell into the sinkhole that is Matt Slick, which is also his porn name, I'm sure.
I thought it'd be black hole.
But I'm full of zingers today. So today I want to give the new people any opportunity to speak up on anything they heard, or if they had any recent experience with Presupp, if they jumped in for that purpose. Anybody?
I just want to jump on Xbox's face with my foot at this moment. I'm only kidding, Xbox. I love you, really. Xbox uses a good argument when talking about Presupp. I'm pretty sure he can describe himself, and I'll go afterwards. So if you wanna jump in there, Xbox.
Oh yeah, just using solipsism. You use epistemic solipsism.
Yeah, I like the way you do it, but still annoys the fuck out of me.
Yeah, just use it as a tool to show that we have an epistemic limit, and that we all do use faith. Our foundation is a faith foundation, whether it's the Christian or the non-believer.
Yeah, I would add a caveat to that. I don't deny that I have faith in my properly basic beliefs, but what I call faith, I define as provisional trust. I don't cling on to my beliefs and are dogmatic about it, and if any evidence presents itself on the contrary, I don't continue to believe it. There's certain things that I think would be very difficult to present evidence, but if there's any evidence or any reasons that come up to believe in the contrary, I hold these beliefs provisionally, and I'm willing to give them up.
Right.
Where
Right.
I think where the dogmatists, the religious dogmatists, they're taught and they're told that no matter what, even if there's evidence right in front of their face to deny what they believe, they must be loyal to those beliefs, never give them up, and hold on to them. So I think that's the difference between my faith over a dogmatist's faith.
Yeah, and I would say and when I say faith, I meant the properly basic beliefs is that these can't be denied without.
Yeah, so I would
without
just
coming off irrational, right? And I think if you take God or something like that as properly basic belief, it can be denied without seeming irrational, without becoming irrational.
Right. So
But I think okay, come.
Yeah, I define faith as basically an unjustified belief, philosophically unjustified belief.
Well, I think properly. I don't want to get into it right this second, but I think I would argue that properly basic beliefs are unjustified when you take them. Now the reason you keep them and keep using them might not be, but the main stab of that argument to go with solipsism against using this as a tool is because their claim is the impossibility of the contrary. Well, that's a contrary worldview that works just as well. I can also take Yahweh, which I'll take the Jewish God, and just argument adduendo like that's a contrary worldview. It's showing that there's at least two other worldviews that are there. So it's not the impossibility of the contrary. It's almost the impossibility of the contrary.
Yeah. The transcendental argument for God, when something's transcendental, what we're talking about is a necessary state, a necessary being. So when something's transcendental, we'll say, X is necessary for Y. So for Y to exist, X must be the precondition. It's necessary. So to claim, well, why is it necessary? Oh, because of the impossibility of the contrary. That is what necessary means. Necessary means the contrary is impossible. It's not possible. That's why it's necessary. But that needs to be shown. It needs to be shown that the contrary is impossible, and that's what a presupper has never really done.
Right.
From Until to Greg Bonson to John Frame to Gordon Clark, they assert that their God is necessary, but they need to show it. You need an argument for that.
God is the precondition for blah blah blah.
Yeah, for intelligibility,
my mind can be the precondition for all on the solipsist view, or Yahweh can be on another view. So now I have X as God, X1 as solipsism, X2 as, so I have other contrary views.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm not necessarily a fan of is, in discussions when creationists say we have the same evidence, we just interpret it differently. That just hits the ear wrong. I mean, one has evidence, one defines evidence, scientific evidence at least, with regard to like fossils, DNA, things that you can make inductions on, based on, what we experience in the real world. I mean, if one has a book and claims that it's like gained through revelation, absent of an actual demonstration, I mean, this is completely different. I mean, one has actual empirical evidence, the other one is a book. It just doesn't work.
Well, I don't think the book's the problem. It's the conclusion of what the book is supposed to represent. Therein lies the problem. Most human beings don't think the book is that bad in regards to some of its messages, right? But in the sense of the conclusion of the holistic approach of this being that is outside of time and space, but yet is in time and space at the same time, doesn't make any sense to a human, because they don't know how to quantify that scenario. Because we are not God, and we never will be. So how do we even get close to going, well, maybe that's just the case? We can't. It's ridiculous at this point.
Yeah,
and how do we answer them? How do we defend the preconditions for intelligibility? Like, how do we respond to that?
I use the properly basic belief.
We can use entropy.
The thing is, all you have to do is give an account for it. You don't that account doesn't have to be absolutely verified by showing that reality actually is that way. It's being able to account for it and saying, well, if this is true and if the world really is like this, then these faculties arise from evolutionary processes in a world with rules and laws, and then you get creatures with intelligence and language skills and syntax that can then pass out rational statements into meaningful laws and rules, and that's an account, and they can say, well, can you prove that? But you can say exactly the same for whatever they fall back on. So they're in the same boat.
You move back, like what Fox, see if you agree with me. You can move backwards from where you are now and start removing things and see at what point you would be deemed irrational, see what's left, and then see how you account for those. And I would say you account for them the exact way Fox was saying.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can give an account, and they'll say, oh, yeah, you can say all of those things. It's not like we have no answers to these. But what they'll do is the Presupp will say, but how do you know any of that's actually true? And of course, you'll answer that. You might well answer that by saying something. Oh, well, I take as a properly basic belief that my memory is reliable. That there is uniformity in nature. That the things that we infer from the empirical sciences give us an indication of how reality actually is or was. And you can say all of that, and they will just pull the skeptic card and say, haha, but how do you know any of that's true? Well, of course, we can do exactly the same thing to them.
Yeah, how they would answer is the way they would answer, and how you can answer, but it's circular.
No, well, this is the point. You use
repeat what Fox just said about evolution and stuff like that. How do I know those things? Oh, okay, give your account again. So just repeat what Fox just said. That's how I can know it. But they'll ask, wait, but I ask you, how do you know that? Oh, I know that by, and you repeat it again. But it's circular. It's circular.
Well, the fact is, when they use that argument, their own existence proves them their statement to be invalid. Because how do I know it, then why are you asking me the question? Because you would be aware of the same knowledge as I am, or you wouldn't be able to formulate the question you're speaking to me, right? So therefore, I already win. Your own existence proves your statement to be invalid. That's
what Sty is saying is that the Presupp are starting with a properly basic belief as well.
Yeah, he's saying, how do I know that I know? It's like, well, you just defeated your own argument at this point, because then how do you know? How do you know the shit that you do and able to ask me the question? You see, so it defeats its own purpose by its very own existence at this point, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. And if you don't believe me, go and read Noam Chomsky. I suggest you do.
Well, it's the same. The thing is, the cleverness or the not so cleverness, depending on how you look at it, of Presupp is they ask you all the questions. They put you on the defensive, and they never realise that the skepticism that they deploy is as equally, if not more so, applicable to them and their account. So they hope that you will never get around to asking those questions, because it's designed to work on people who aren't aware of things like properly basic beliefs, or who will just think, well, because science tells me that this is correct, or will just, they'll just repeat this. They'll be almost to the point where they'll beg the question, and I think that they do have justifications, and their justifications will just go around in circles, and that's what the Presupp is happy to do all day long. But of course, you say, okay, let's accept, there is skepticism, and we can construct skeptical scenarios whereby any of our properly basic beliefs could be wrong. Okay, that's fine. We just have to accept that. We make peace with that. So you also have to accept that about your beliefs about God. So you're in no better position. And the failure of presuppositionalist apologetics is that it assumes they can go beyond an epistemic account to give a necessary ontological account. They can say how reality absolutely is and must be, because if it wasn't, then they couldn't know anything. So it completely begs the question.
Yeah, well, they're because it's God. This is the point.
Well, and that's why that argument you brought up, Sty, about me, is that's why I used the epistemic solipsism to show our epistemic limit that they fit into as well. I'm not saying this is hard solipsism and taking that position. I'm saying I used that tool to show we have a limit on. Well,
Arcane Logos has solved hard solipsism anyway.
I actually got a Nobel Prize.
Hold on, real quick. The thing with the Presupp is that it's the epitome of closed-mindedness, right? It's the poster child of closed-mindedness. They will not give up. This is why it's almost futile to even engage them unless you think you're going to be able to talk them out of taking that position. But they're going to say everything starts with God, whether I have a revelation of it or not. There's no way it can work without it. I'm not even gonna play a hypothetical where God doesn't exist to even entertain your worldview.
And actually, the ironic thing is they don't even actually use the paradox of Presupp properly, because it's a statement. It's not something to be used in an argument where I'm right, you're wrong. That's not the way Presupp works. It's supposed to point out that how do you know stuff, right? It's not saying just because it sounds interesting that this is the case. It's just saying how do you know this is the case, right? That's
Right.
it. It's not doing anything
Right,
more.
right. They're saying they're justified.
That's a defense mechanism and an
and you're
argument
not.
for God. Yeah, it's not supposed to defend God. That's not its job. It's
Right,
a
they're saying
paradox.
they can justify accounting for the ingredients to rationality or intelligibility, and you can't. Where we say those properly basic beliefs are the ingredients to rationality, they're not rational themselves. They're saying, well, no, they actually are, and God makes them that way.
Exactly right. They're already assuming that God is the case, and then they're going, "Well, how do you know that God isn't true?" Which is invoking the worst kind of Presupp slash,
Yeah, they're just taking one step back. Okay,
Yeah.
now, okay, you're saying there's something prior to those properly basic beliefs. Okay, now you have this basic belief. Okay, well, justify that one. And again, they can't. They're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
Again, how can we account for our senses? Well, we evolved that way. There's my account. But
Right,
is that a justification? No, that's not justification. It's just a story of where those things came from.
Well, and the other thing that I think works better in our favor is the fact that there are people whose senses and minds don't work properly. And so if you want to say that, everybody has this ability to trust their senses in most cases, like most of the presuppers would argue, then you would have to also account for and give an explanation as to why there are people who, the example
blind.
that
Blind
yeah, the blind people, but there are people who like have hallucinations all the time and who's really have a kind of warped
mentally
and bizarre. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So from an evolutionary perspective, that's easy to explain. That just comes with the territory of
Have you ever heard theirs, Gavaga? Have you ever heard their explanation for that?
Demons cause it.
Yeah,
No.
it'll be demons or God caused them that way, but God will take care of them.
Yeah, but he doesn't a lot of times, and if it wasn't for us, they would be left to just die basically, and depending on how severe their
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think their response to it is a worthy response. I think your point stands. I think it's good.
Yeah.
No, that's another very good response, just like Floyd's.
Yeah, Sai-Ten always says, well, how do you know you're not, lying face down in a straitjacket in a psych ward? Well, I don't have any good reason to believe that I am, but and on the other hand, if you're saying that my reason for believing that I'm not is because I can trust that my perceptions are accurate because of this deity, what do you have to say to the person who actually is lying face down in a straitjacket in a psych ward?
I would like to ask him, how does he know that?
Yeah, those people exist in their worldview as well.
Right.
So, this is the point. How did you know this is the case? It's like, what? Hold on. Are you asking me to?
Arcane tried to do that once. Saying, how do you know you're not suffering from schizophrenia? And I said, Arcane, schizophrenia exists in your worldview as well, right?
Yeah. So, how would you know it?
Yeah,
how would you know?
This is a problem for both of us.
Well, see, part of the thing.
But God tells me I'm not.
Well, that could be there's your schizophrenia telling you that, right?
That even would point a little more that you are schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's also a lot of examples in the Bible where God's misleading people and deceiving people. I know there's the verse, God can't lie, but there's plenty of verses about him causing them to believe a deception, leading them astray. I mean, how do they know God's not lying?
Yeah,
isn't that
lying spirits and causing strong delusions.
Isaac and Abraham, God personally deceived them.
Exactly.
Remember that Tower of Babel story when they were building the ziggurat and God came down and confused the people?
Yeah, he made them all speak different languages, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, God's not the author of confusion. Well, in that case, he was.
He is now.
The
What was the
exception
point you
proves the
made the
rule.
Floyd, you made a good point the other day about the two conflicting verses about God, about verses saying God can't lie, and then a contradictory verse about God can do all things.
That was the Job thing with James, right, Floyd? Remember we was in the
Maybe
hangout
it
with
was
James?
someone else that made the point.
It was actually me. Just saying.
I don't remember. I've been in a lot of hangouts.
Well, Floyd was in the same hangout. James said God lied, and I was like, well, how is it possible for God to lie if he knows everything? And he just didn't know how to answer that question, which I found hilarious.
I can't remember the exact verse, but I know there's a verse that says God cannot lie. But then there's also a contrary verse that says, well, there's two of them. There's at least one that says, through all things through God all things are possible. And then there's another one that says that, I can't remember the wording of it, but it pretty much says God can do anything.
Well, God can do anything. That's his MO, like literally.
Yeah, well, they say he can lie, but he chooses not to because it's not part of his nature.
He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
That would be in conflict with the verse that says God cannot lie.
Oh well, who cares? It's God. He can do what he wants.
I don't think the Bible. The Bible is not internally consistent, and it doesn't offer a systematic theology. So, I just, to me, it's a moot point. The Bible is just, it's not reliable.
Well,
so.
I think someone mentioned logic before. Actually, if there was a being even remotely close to what is in the Bible, you couldn't even apply logic to God. It would be impossible, because God doesn't require anything that we understand, because the only logic applies to the universe, right? If God made the universe, therefore logic would only apply to said universe. It wouldn't apply to him.
Let me attack you for a second, because that's an assertion that logic only applies to the universe. If it's God's nature, but how did you establish
You don't know what nature is. You don't know what nature is.
How did you establish that logic only applies to our universe?
Because that's the only one that's actually applicable to our own existence, not God's, just yours.
Again, logic applies to all possible worlds. It doesn't apply to the universe.
Where you only get worlds from universes, you don't get them from anywhere else, unless you want to show me a different dimension where worlds don't exist, or physics. There isn't one. That's the problem. We only know what we know because we exist inside of the universe. Yeah, all possible universes is still not. You're missing the point. God doesn't reside in a universe. We do. Listen to me very carefully. Listen to me very carefully. Listen to me very carefully.
If worlds exist in universe, then there would be God.
Listen to me very carefully. God doesn't reside in anything that we are knowledgeable about. There's no way we can know what God actually is, because we've never been there. It would take an extreme amount of energy to know that shit. In fact, you would become God at that point.
Yeah.
No, I actually agree. I think we have that's why I take the Huxley and agnostic position. I think that even if he is there, it's unknowable.
Yeah, the more theists talk about God, the more God turns into a very vague and obscure concept. You hear people like Trey Chadlow saying, God's nature isn't love. God is love. And God is just his attributes. Yeah, so you're reducing God down to just a bunch of attributes.
Well, this is the thing. Like, what I find, because I like psychology and stuff, the more people talk about God, the more human God gets, which is a projection of oneself, actually, not actually God's attributes. Because God's got one.
Once you whittle away at those, it essentially becomes God is God. In every one of those cases where God is love, it comes down back. Or if they say God is moral, that's the same thing as saying God
is also jealous,
Yeah.
And spiteful and all the other good stuff.
The more you apply philosophy to God, the more abstract and vague, and he's infinite. He's incomprehensible. He's just his attributes. He's simple too. He's simple. He has no parts.
Incommunicable.
He's all-knowing. Then why does he need the requirement to think? If he's all-knowing, if you know everything, you don't need to think at this point.
Yeah.
But he doesn't think though. That's the thing. He's literally thoughtless.
Yeah, which makes no sense, because then how did he make us lot then? It's like
he's a mind that has no thoughts, and it doesn't experience things.
He's a mind, but nothing like a mind.
Yeah. He pretty much dissipates into nothing eventually.
Or it would be that
because that's what
he's
he
a
is.
mind. He's a mind, but he doesn't do mind-like things.
Yeah.
Just mind blowing.
So how are we supposed to believe in this thing if it's not even comprehensible?
Well, that's
What
why I
exactly
don't.
are you asking me to believe in?
And also, how isn't love like an experience? Isn't when you say something's all loving, don't you isn't love an experience?
Yes, it
So
is.
if you don't experience, if you don't have mental content experience, how do you love anything?
Right.
It
No. Yeah.
doesn't make any
Did
sense.
you hear, Fox? Did you hear my question to Matt the other day about how can God have experience without having experiences?
No, I
And
didn't hear that. But
yeah, it got into him actually saying, how can you how do you tie those two together? How can you say experience? You have to have experience to have experience, or how do you have experience? How can you have how do you tie experience with experiences?
right,
It's like by definition. That's
yeah. Isn't experiences just a collection of individual experience?
Yeah, but
right.
like I said, they can get away with murder because they say, well, God experiences nothing and something at the same time. It's like, okay then,
Well,
stop
I used
cheating.
your argument, Sty.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That they will say that God is everything. This is the thing. When you argue against something that's an impossibility, right? And they know quite well it is. You only have to just do one of two things. Just don't accept their stupid idea, or try and actually mind bend yourself to actually put valid arguments toward their stupid assertions. That's
No,
all you should
Sty,
do.
when I say I used your argument, I used the shoelace argument you did, but with a ball, right? How can God create a round red rubber ball without ever experiencing round or red,
Oh,
or
ball.
without these experiences? How could he ever conceive of or have the idea of creating a ball without this
Well, that's where the
in
whole
the way
nothing.
that
That's the whole something
we
from
know it?
nothing argument.
Otherwise, if he can, he's just a database.
Well, if he can, that makes him more human, and we are created in his image, which is, I mean, I think some of the Bible is kind of weird because I don't think the Bible is technically the story of God. I think it's a metaphor for understanding how the universe works. In some cases, not all, obviously, because some of it's a bit whack. But in most cases, most of the teachings of any book actually that's religious, most of them are metaphors. You know, so
Yeah. Do you get what I was saying though with your argument? Because if you're timeless,
yes, of
atemporal,
course.
and you don't have time to have an idea or anything like that, okay, I just want to make sure.
No,
I,
I'm agreeing. Yeah, I agree. It's very interesting. I asked Matt Bell the same question. I said to Matt Bell, "Can you tie your shoelace before you were born?" And he literally said yes. And I was like, "How? What?"
God.
And then the next time I asked him, he said, "No, I made the mistake." And I was like, "Yes, but that was a pretty big whopper at that point." You know, just saying. And he says, "No, I didn't say it." Dude, it's on my YouTube channel right now. You can go and watch you say it. And he wouldn't even apologize for the fact that he just fucked up so bad. And I apologize for swearing. But yeah, he literally said, I knew how to tie my shoelace before I was born because of God. And I was like, no, 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 no. That's
Yeah, but
bullshit.
when Matt Bell says something, he is allowed to go back on it. I mean, even if he makes a promise on God's name, for instance,
Yeah,
he's allowed to not go through with that promise, but have still kept to that promise at the same time because he's Matt Bell, and he's allowed to be contradictory
yeah, I
and
forgot it. He's special.
hypocritical and a liar. And not a liar, a bit like God, I guess, in that respect.
Yeah,
So he's
exactly
very
right.
Christ-like, isn't he? Yeah, yeah. So he can get down in the gutter, but not be in the gutter at the same time. And he can insult people, but not insult people at the same time as well. He's all over it.
And didn't he promise to leave if you
Yep. he's
Oh
still
yeah,
here.
yeah.
He's still
like
here.
he
Yeah.
wrote a letter or some post, right, saying if I'm a dick, basically I'll leave Google Plus and YouTube.
Promised on the word of his God as well.
Yeah.
He said in light of the God that he knows exists, or some similar sort of thing.
Well, he's
And he's still here.
He's definitely not one of the cheese makers at this point, is he?
No.
That was a Monty Python joke for anybody who didn't get it.
He'd be the last person to leave.
Yeah. He'll be sat there complaining. Even when God said, I'm the real God, he'll be like, no, you don't do what you You do. William Craig.
Incorrect.
You know. You can imagine him arguing with God, can't you? I can literally imagine him arguing with God at this point, which is hilarious.
You know,
Who was it wrestling with God again? Who wrestled with God in the Bible? Matt Bell's really looking forward to doing that
Jake,
Jacob.
for eternity.
Jacob, I think.
Jacob,
Yeah, there you go.
Yaku.
All right, so as much as I love to brag on Matt Bell for the next hour, I'm gonna switch topics because that guy just brings it upon himself. But
He does.
every time he pisses me off, I just kind of look at his old karate pictures of him and that dude.
Oh no, that's
It's so funny because he looks like a broken condom in that picture. But
he's just old as well, probably. Oh no. Ugh.
I gotta at least attempt. I'm so bad at this, but I gotta at least attempt to stay on some sort of topic. So Gabby brought up a topic of he had some interactions with some with some Islamic representatives, and he wanted to kind of bring that up. And Skylar Fiction brought up just had a great video post called Context, which after this is done, I'll post that link. I invited him to come in here, but he's at work, unfortunately. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but essentially it's a short video about him talking to a Muslim, and they're going over a scripture in the Quran, and he's asking him, the Muslim guy brought up the, what you have to know the context of it, and Skylar challenged him on the context. Quran, and he didn't know the context. He just kept kind of repeating what the verse said, and so it's a really cool video. I wish he was here to explain it himself, but he's not. So, Gabby, you have the floor.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't have a whole lot to say. I just, I've been working to kind of bring Muslims into the Great Debate community, and I've been intentionally reaching out and trying to find new Muslim people, in particular Muslims who have good English skills, because that can be a little bit difficult. There are a lot of Muslims on G+ who post in Arabic, and their English skills are not super great, and so it can make communication difficult.
I feel that way about Americans.
Yeah, maybe so.
I'm only kidding. Go on, anyway.
But and then there are others who, just because of time zone differences, it can be difficult to interact and things. But I found a number of decent people. There's Super Muslim, who I had a conversation with. It's one of my favorite videos on my channel. He's just a mensch. He's a great guy. He posts good content. He's obviously he's pro-Islam and things, but very moderate in his views, and I would say very westernized as far as his outlook on kind of Western democracies and things, and he's in favor of.
You just call him a mensch?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I think it was through Super Muslim, kind of looking through his circles and people that he's got in his circles. I found another guy named Reishin Saburo who also posts a lot of stuff, and he's just very approachable, and a lot of stuff that he posts is just really genuinely funny stuff, and he's reposted some of my things that he thought were funny, and I really like that guy. He apparently doesn't do any kind of hangouts at all. If you look on his page, on his about section of this page, his tagline is "Don't hang out with me," for whatever reason, which I've disappointed, but okay, and I found a couple other guys. There's a Daily Hadith guy who posts kind of like devotionals, but he seems pretty nice, and I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with him. On the other end of the spectrum, kind of lingering, I found there's one individual named Al-Sham, and I can't even find his profile anymore. I interacted with him briefly, and he had some disturbing posts. I mean, there was one who was an image of, I think it was an Israeli security person, a woman, with a knife, stuck into her skull, and this was not from a news outlet or something like that, where he was, it was a first-hand photo, and I interacted with him. I tried to. He eventually said that he had been instructed by his higher ups, whatever that means, that he shouldn't interact with me, and so I don't know what all that means. And some of the Muslims were saying, some of the other Muslims that are in my circles told me, well, he's a phony. He's either, they were saying he's either an agent who's trying to penetrate into kind of terrorist circles, or he's a wannabe and doesn't actually run in those circles, but he likes to pretend that he is. And if that's true, I don't know that that's any less disturbing than somebody that's actually in those circles. But and then there's a woman, or apparently a woman, goes by the name Maria Storms, and her English is pretty good. And she's posted some things. She doesn't post a whole lot, but like there was one that I saw, and I think this is probably one of the first things that I saw her posting, and it was something about, don't tell people you are a Muslim, show them you're a Muslim, act like a Muslim, dress like a Muslim, and pray like a Muslim. And her caption was something like, you don't need any reason to help someone. Being a Muslim is enough to help others. And it was the photo was a Muslim guy helping an old woman down some stairs with her bags or something like that. Positive, okay. But then as I looked through her page, I mean, she's got some disturbing photos, like very violent images against President Obama, which I also find interesting because a lot of the kind of conservatives think that Obama is in with radical Muslims, where there's clear evidence that they do not appreciate him. And
I want to start jumping on this. Can you hurry up? I'm just so angry. Not at you. I'm just angry.
He's gonna explode if he doesn't get to speak.
Go for it, Sty.
No, I just totally gonna agree. I don't know who that Maria Eagles chick is, so I can't really comment on that. But the whole Obama thing, as a European and as being mixed race myself, it's amazing how the media portrays Obama in that regard. Like, I don't like the guy. I think he's shrill, like Hillary Clinton and the rest of these fucktards. But the fact that he's being battered, let's just grow up and be human beings. America's still a racist-ass motherfucking country. And the reason why people don't like him and think he's not and think he's not this and this and this is because he's a black dude, right? And people go, he's not even black, he's half black. Shut the fuck up. What do you mean? Fuck off. It's just so bizarre. Now I know, right? I speak to lots of Americans like you good guys, and the majority of Americans I speak to are internet savvy and well read, and I can't really point the finger and go, well, all Americans are stupid, even though I do like to have a bit of a joke with that. But in regards to the media, and I blame Fox News and the mainstream media, it's just they just love that kind of shit anyway. They love it. They love to perpetuate it. Like, who the fuck perpetuates a news cycle like Obama isn't a Muslim? Who the fuck says that? That's literally a conspiracy theory, but it's on mainstream media. If you said George W. Bush is a Nazi, would you ever see that? Even though his fucking granddad was one? No, you wouldn't see that shit. So I just get furiated at that kind of shit. And in regards to even Muslims in the UK, you get a lot of right-wing people in the UK like, oh, the Muslims are coming to get us. Well, actually, there was a story on Fox News that you couldn't go to Birmingham apparently because it was a no-go zone for white people. 86% of the population of Birmingham are white. that would be handy to give you the proper stats. But Americans believe shit because they just watch it on the TV and think that's the way it is. There's no way the British public are being taken over by radical Islam. In fact, when people talk about Sharia law in the United Kingdom, which we do have, the reason why we have it is because it's the same law that prevents, well, I wouldn't say prevents, but it was brought in by the Jews, and that was after World War II. It was to protect Jewish people and their religious rights, but everybody's still under the law of British common law, as we call it over here. So don't listen to all these scare stories like the Muslims are coming to get your ass. That's called propaganda. You should know better than that. Hitler did it very well, and so did Goebbels.
Hey, Gabby, what page do you have there?
So yeah, so this is that Maria Storms. This is her page, and she's got a lot of this stuff. I think that's the ISIS flag, if I'm not mistaken. So as I kind of delved into some of the stuff she was posting, I started seeing more of that, and there's stuff like this with Obama being stabbed in the head by, I think, ISIS person or whatever. But I think the most disturbing thing of all was this particular post that she put up. It's a video where actually there are 6 men, prisoners of ISIS, by, as far as I can tell, and in the video they're burned alive. They are hung from some kind of structure, and a fire is lit beneath them, and they are literally burned alive.
Let's just say how it is. She's an apologetic fucking radical fucking nutcase. Let's just say how it is. She is. Who the fuck goes around posting shit like that out of the interest of any secular fucking society? She's a fucking apologist. And if I was the NSA or the FBI, that motherfucker would be on my watch list. No offense, but you would.
Well, and I don't know where she's located. I don't know. I really don't know much about her other than she goes by Maria Storms here, and so, but to me, it's worth finding people like this and individuals like this, if for no other reason than to try and ask them some critical thinking questions. And what I asked her on her post was, what did the men who were killed in this video do to deserve being burned alive? And she said, I don't know, maybe something bad. So she doesn't even know, and she's posting this.
That's apologetics right there.
Yeah.
I read it. That's apologetics. It's like, well, it's the same in every country. You got to live by the laws. Well, no, we don't. That's the entire point.
Well, and so I said, well, if they did nothing wrong, would that matter to you? And she didn't respond there. I mean, and maybe she doesn't care. I don't know. But to me, I want to live in a society that's where there's some sense of justice, where people are given trials if they have done something wrong, and where they're not just plucked up and
no, she's an apologetic.
Put to death. Yeah, I'm not defending her by any means. But I'm saying one of the things that I want to do is reach out and be a voice to challenge some of these bad ideas that are out there. And the internet affords us that opportunity. At least, and this, I don't think that she is probably at the center of this terrorist group.
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna put my neck on the line here and say, I don't think she is in ISIS, right? Or that stupid shit. I'm not gonna say that, but what I will say is that mentality, that stupidity fuels and encourages people to be even dumber than she is and literally go and kill people. I say this to people who are religious, and people don't like it, and you can blast me for it, but moderate Christians, moderate Muslims are just failed suicide bombers at this point. You just lack it. I know, but I just think that if you're going to defend a secular human society, which I obviously know you do, and the rest of us do, then you have to stand up to intolerance, and that includes fighting against your own belief system in some cases. And that's just the case, You have to stand up and go, no, it's wrong. It's wrong that Saudi Arabia chops off heads.
Yeah.
It just is. I don't give a fuck how rich they are. At this point, rich doesn't come into it. Stop chopping people's heads off, you fucking morons.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and
Sorry to be so poignant.
my intentions, my reasons are twofold. One, reaching out to Muslims. For the moderates, I think both the moderate Muslims and the Christians that we deal with will mutually benefit from interacting with each other, and so I'm
Yes.
doing everything that I can to bring them in, because the arguments that they pose, and it's almost surreal when you get into an exchange with a Muslim and you kind of go down their apologetics and whatever. How similar! It's almost spooky how similar
It's
it is.
par. Yeah.
It's and you say, well, ours is the only faith that makes sense and has no contradictions, or our holy book is the only one with no contradictions, and it's perfect, and it makes these prophecies and blah blah blah. You change a couple of words and you have an argument for Christianity, and
You literally get the Bible.
Yeah.
These two people think exactly the same. The
Yeah.
only problem is that which one's right. Who can be more fucking ruthless at this point? Like
Yeah.
the Christians.
Why does one of them have to be right, Sty? They can both be wrong.
No, they're both wrong. I'm going to say that unequivocally. They're both fucking complete retards, as far as I'm concerned. I want a fucking normal, happy planet. I don't think anyone requires religion, right? I don't think you require religion to count to 10 at this point. So no, I understand what you're doing there, Ruth, which is good. I think that's a good move, though. I think because I've said this as well. Most of these debates, or the great debate, is only being about God in the sense of the Western version of God. I would like to get Muslims involved as well. Now, to be honest, I don't know many on the internet, and I can be honest about that. But a lot of my friends who are Muslim are exactly the same as Christians. One, they eat bacon and drink lots of booze and shag birds. That's exactly what they do. The only reason why they say they're Muslim is because if they said anything else to their parents, they would get their heads chopped off, apparently. So, they're just not asked. There is Muslims who follow the rules and shit, but they're not fucking batshit crazy, right? And there's some Christians who follow the rules but not batshit crazy. But at the end of the day, religion is the underlying principle of how you get batshit crazy in the first place. Because if you can blow yourself up in the name of any god, you're batshit crazy at this point. It doesn't matter what god it is, you're fucking nuts. And the less of them we have on the planet, the better.
Yeah, but what do you really think?
Well, what I really think is we should just exterminate them. There you go. I think people who are religious should be exterminated. There you go. That I would be a nice Hitler at this point.
Oh my word, Sty.
Yeah, I know. Well, you did ask what I think.
Wouldn't it be revealing if we try to have dialogue with Muslims and they're told or refuse to have dialogue with us? Doesn't that tell us that they're not willing to live in a multicultural society, that they that they want to be separate? It's their way or the highway.
But not just Texas.
Yeah, I mean, but I'd like to hear from them. I'd like to hear, is Islam a religion of peace? From what I'm seeing, the answer is no.
Well, that's unfair. That's unfair.
Yeah, does the Quran teach that that Muslims must kill the infidel?
Yes, it does. It's plainly in black and white.
It's in there a few times.
It's the exact same shit's in the Bible.
And not only that, this is the worst point of all. Does the Quran teach that it is okay to lie to the infidel?
Yes.
If the answer is yes, then no matter what this guy says to you, it could be a lie.
Well, it kind of says the same shit in the fucking... Well, okay, I'll give Christians one thing. It doesn't say lie, it just says stab them in the face. Full frontal, like stab them. But you know what, the point is, how do we exchange this problem? I mean, my country was blown up by terrorists way before 9/11 happened, right? By the IRA. No one gave a shit about the IRA at this point. They were Christians, right? But they had the political cause, which actually there's a good article recently on Huffington Post saying that actually religious fanatics are more actually political than they are religious, which I guess is the case. But if we look at what the problem is now with ISIS and all this shit, these people are just mental. That's the point. The majority of people on the planet just want to get along to get along. We don't need to go Hitler-esque on these people, even though I would, just to see the fucking look on people's faces. But at the same time, we're not at war with Muslims. We're at war with an ideology that stems from this crazy book. Just the same way we did it with Christians in the fucking medieval times. These fuckers were going batshit. Like, God is this and this is God, and if you don't agree, then we're going to stick you on a stake and burn your ass.
Yeah, Christianity's been defanged, but Islam has not.
Well, let's defang fucking Islam just the same way. It's probably going to take a bit longer, but we can defang it the same way. We need to educate these people. We need to give them a sense of hope. We need to give them money. I need to show them that you can actually drink Coca-Cola and still believe in Allah at the same time.
I got a question for you, Sty. Do you think that the New Testament is just as likely to inspire violence against non-believers as the Quran is?
Yes. The guy who shot people against Planned Parenthood was a New Testament reader, just so you know.
The guy who shot what?
The guy who shot up Planned Parenthood was a New Testament reader. You got to understand, when you go extreme on any position, we use the word extreme for a reason. It's because you're not willing to understand other person's opinion of life, right? So if you're saying abortion's wrong and you're killing people, and that you think in your mind it's logically okay to therefore go and jihad in the name of Christ and shoot people, then you're a fucking nutcase.
You think he could use the teachings of Jesus to justify that?
We already know this is the case.
Where do you want to start?
Okay, now.
Where do you want to start? Jesus said, I came to bring a sword between families, between mothers and fathers and sons and daughters. Like, where do you want to start?
Is that the consensus in the room, that the New Testament is just as likely to inspire violence as the Quran?
No, it's not a consensus. It's just my opinion.
No.
It's not a consensus.
Jesus apparently said, I did not come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword, to divide. That's what he said. You can't rewrite that. You can, but you'd be called liberal.
The guy who shot up Planned Parenthood is a New Testament believer. It's a fact. You can't tell me that that wasn't a terrorist act based on belief. It was.
Right.
You don't go around killing people based on a difference of opinion unless you were a religious fanatic.
The kinds of passages that are in the Quran that the terrorists use to justify their acts of terror are not found in the New Testament. There you can find support for carrying out violence in the New Testament and certainly in the Old Testament. And if that's your goal and your aim, you can justify it using the Bible. I don't think that it's as easy, and it's not as readily available in the Bible as it is in the Quran.
I think all those punishments, as far as burning people, beheading them. I think in the case of homosexuals, they tie them to a chair and throw them off the top of a building. I believe all those are exact punishments described in the Quran of how to punish these people.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta understand, if you look at the historical context of where the both books came from, it's from the same place. They are Judaic in their nature, right? They come from the same place. The most quoted prophet in the Quran is actually fucking Jesus. These fuckers ain't messing around. Like, seriously. The problem is that the Middle East has been in the Stone Age for so long that they see...
Bronze.
I wouldn't even call it bronze, literally in the Stone Age. Like, whatever. But the point is, right, and I think I'll agree with Floyd on what he said before, we need to defang these motherfuckers. We need to come up with a strategy to do so. Bombing the fuck out of them ain't gonna do shit. Showing them that there's a better way to run society is our only weapon at this point.
But
Like,
that's
literally.
pointless. That's pointless, though, Sty. You're talking to people who have a base belief of their religion that it's the only right one, and you've got a group that control the veracity of what they teach and what they believe, to the point
like
where
Saudi Arabia. Yes, I agree.
Well,
Saudi
so
Arabia is one of the main
when you start talking about making everyone...
Oh, where did he go? Where did he go, James? Bugger.
Oops.
Oh, did he drop?
Yeah.
I think he's probably hit the wrong button by mistake.
Oh, there you
Hey,
Sorry about that.
Go ahead, yeah.
You
It
go.
Hit the
happens
wrong
every once in a
button.
while. So what I was saying was that if you're calling for an update, a reformation within Islam, it'll never happen, because anybody who speaks against what the Quran teaches is called heretic or an apostate, and they're killed. There is no other way. There's no way to bring them into our century. It just isn't going to happen. They have to live by their book.
Well, and that's all the more reason then to and have discussions with them, encourage them to think critically about whether or not their reasons for believing that book are justified,
Exactly.
and for whether or
Instead
not
of
they.
bombing them, we should talk to them. I'm totally with
Yeah.
Ron on this point.
Yeah, and it's that isolation that lends people to it fosters these bad ideas and helps to cultivate them, because they're not challenged, because when they hear the challenges, they shut it down, they close down the borders, they lock themselves off, they restrict internet access. Bad ideas don't survive well when they are open for debate and open for being challenged, and that's readily apparent when you see the people with the worst ideas. The Mormons restrict access to the internet and things because their theology is so inherently problematic and things, because as soon as people start looking up things on the internet, they find that their theology is completely full of holes and problems.
Well, when sorry,
Go ahead.
I didn't interrupt you. No, what I was going to say was for guys like Skylar and Ron, for every video that they do, they may not reach the person that they're actually talking to, but the person that watches that video, that's a Muslim, that's maybe having some doubts or thoughts, or maybe the kid's like 12 or 14, or maybe he's seen it somewhere. That's the person that I think it could have a trickle down effect to. You may not have convinced the person you're talking to, but once it's on the internet, it's there for essentially the world to see. So hopefully someone else can see that and possibly get influenced.
I read an
Oh,
article. I
man.
read a blog this morning that's like huge, and parts of it were talking about how groups like ISIS formed and where they come from, and it was. There's just so much there. I'm still trying to digest a lot of it. But one of the things they said is they catch kids, not necessarily even Muslim kids, just kids in general, who are disenfranchised, who are in that transition phase of their life from not working to trying to find a job, and they live in places where they can't find work, and they offer them a place to do what they do. One of the anecdotes that it talked about a group go into a bank, I think in Syria or somewhere. They go into the bank and they download all the records from the bank, and the comment of these people was they were quite nice, and the guy was asked, well, why are you doing this? He says, because these guys gave me a job in my field, and I'm a computer guy. This is what I do. And they said I can use my talents to do this stuff. So it's not, what I got out of this whole article is it's not just an Islamic mentality that's fueling these people. It's finding people who need a voice, who need to be something, to be with another group, an identity, and they're giving them that. That's a whole different ball of wax. That's a whole different mindset, rather than just they're coming from Islam. They're not. They're coming from all over the place. And then they're being said, oh, now we're Muslim. But when they're asked, they don't even know what the Quran says about anything. They don't even know anything about any of their teachings. They just, well, we're with a bunch of Islam guys, so I must be in Islam now. So it's not as simple black and white as, yeah, they're all Islamic fundamentalist radical nut jobs. Well, they're not. They're finding them in the slums of London. They're finding them all over Europe and all over North America. These people are flocking to this group because they give them an identity that they don't find anywhere else. And that's a powerful thing in a society.
Wow, that was dead air.
I think a lot of these ISIS people are just thugs. That it's an opportunity for them to get money to wreak havoc. I think their view is, well, I'm deciding myself with a political power, and if we win, then I'm going to reap the benefits from it. So, I think they're just warlords, using religion as their backdrop to force their way. But every single woman that they capture and so forth, I hear gets raped and so forth, and according to their beliefs, that they're allowed to do it, and it's just animalistic behavior. But they're justified through their religion.
I agree.
Yeah, one of the things that I find really, I don't know, intriguing and kind of puzzling is the fact that this Maria Storms person who apparently supports ISIS is a woman. Like, why would any woman support a group that views women as they do? I mean, they're not even interested in allowing women to get education, and she's clearly able to read and write. I'm sorry?
Do you know she's a woman?
She has a profile picture of a woman wearing a, what is it called, a hijab?
Yeah, I saw the page.
And there was one interaction that I had on some post where a guy said something about, leave his sister alone, referring to Maria. So, and I find it hard to believe that a Muslim would go about posing as a woman when he's a man.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, I guess. You never know. It's the internet. I mean, shit.
Yeah, maybe. But, yeah, it's possible. I couldn't say for sure.
I mean, we talked, I think, a couple of shows ago about this, and I think we had mentioned, with the Americans or people bombing the other country, like these Islamic states, kind of rallies them if they, if there's collateral damage, to the general populace that isn't necessarily ISIS or whoever their intended targets are, and it kind of rallies them to their cause. And all they really have to do is incite violence in other countries. And when those countries react, it's it's just another enemy, and they get a surge of new troops. Does that make sense?
Trying to stop them, yeah, it does. Trying to stop them by bombing them is like trying to kill the gremlins by drowning them. I mean, it's very counterproductive.
It's the fucking dumbest idea ever. I mean, you can't bomb an idea. This is what people need to understand, like, just from history, man.
I posted the link to the essay in the external chat. I think you guys all heard it go bing. It's quite extensive, so you're probably not going to be able to read it while you're on air because it's like 10,000 words long. It's a blog post. It's quite thorough, and I had to read it very, very carefully. There's a lot in there, and it makes you think twice about a lot of different things, and it's not a simple black and white answer. It really isn't. There's so much going on.
I heard the younger generation in Iran is like very, I don't know what the right word is, liberal or secular. Like they enjoy Western music and like rap and they just want good jobs, and they want the electronics like American kids want and stuff like that. Sometimes I think giving them success will change their ways. They'll realize their religion is keeping them back from being successful.
Yeah.
Because I think what the religious leaders tell them is, the Jew is holding you back. The enemy is holding you back. It's not our fault. It's the enemy.
Well,
they're keeping you poor. Not the religion itself keeping you poor.
The sad thing about it is actually, if you look back at history in regards to the Renaissance, it was actually all the great mathematicians at the time were from the Middle East. I mean, We got zero from these motherfuckers, right? I mean, we also got it from the Indians at this point, but you know, it's like these guys invented the archway and shit. What did they invent it? But they didn't know how to build one, right? And that's why you get beautiful archways in modern day medieval cathedrals was through these people. And you can look at most mathematicians at the time were Arabs, and it's because the religious fucktards took over, just like the way, you know, we were suppressed in the West by Christianity and Copernicus, and I can mention a few other people, but religion is fucked over the Middle East, and people have forgot it's okay to be an educated, rational human being, and they're literally scared to death of the consequences of if you don't do as I say, then you're going to hell because Muhammad said so. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. To your point, Floyd, there was a show here in the U.S. And it involves a guy. The host goes to other countries, and it's kind of like a food show, but he doesn't go for the cuisine. He goes for like the street food guys. And he did one. I think it was Iran. And to your point, it's kind of true. They have car shows, like they have drag races. There are females that do the drifting. And they look very as close to Western, modern as they can. And a lot of these kids don't. At least it looks on the surface like they don't subscribe to the religious fundamentalism. They're for all intents and purposes exactly like someone I would see, out here on the West Coast, at a car show with their fancy cars, and they're hanging out with their friends and on a Friday night just like any other group of people.
Yeah, I think the way to ultimately to convert them or deconvert them is to give them a taste of Western success. If you give them a good job, if they enjoy having a nice home and a nice flat screen TV and music and stuff, they won't be interested.
If you read what I sent you, one of the things it talks very specifically about is the Muslims who emigrate somewhere. Usually, within one generation, they're not poor. Whereas any other group, saying emigrating to France or somewhere, they end up in a ghetto somewhere. So when an Arab or a Muslim emigrates somewhere, they don't go to the poorhouses. They are rich. They become wealthy within one generation. So that isn't going to attract them. They have work. They have money. The ideology has to be attacked. And the problem is that it will never be attacked from within until they understand that there's a place, like the Christian has the concept of the backslidden Christian. There is no concept like that in Islam. It's that or you're Islam or you're dead. That has to be addressed, and that will cost lives. My girlfriend's reading a book right now that talks about that, how Islam is in need of reform, and the only way that's going to be done is through blood from within. It's just the same way it went through with the Catholic Church 500 years ago. It has to come from within.
I heard liberal Muslims claim that when we talk about jihad, it means the struggle, and they interpret it as, oh well, jihad is the struggle within you. So you have to struggle with your own sin and so forth. That's how they interpret it. But is that the historical context of jihad in the Quran and their other texts? I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, there's reasons the Sunnis and the Sufis fight. So.
Yeah. No different than the
I
Catholics
actually think
and Protestants fighting.
An interesting front on the ideological battle is actually with us. It seems like a lot of the not new atheists, but atheists in general and liberals don't really want to take on some of the Islamic ideology.
No,
and like the Sam Harris quote that they put on a curve. I'm actually.
That's unfair.
No, I'm actually talking about you, Sty, here particularly because you've kind of demonstrated that. Because you cannot draw as straight of a line.
Well, I'm not an atheist.
Okay, so, fine. You can't. My point. I'm not prejudging you. I'm going by what you said earlier when you said that the New Testament is just as likely to produce violence against non-believers as the Quran. That's just ridiculous.
No,
so
it's
this is
not.
a debate.
No,
That's got
it's
that's a
not.
debate that's got to go
Listen,
on.
listen,
with
listen.
progressive-minded people.
Before
So
9/11.
let me get my point out first. Let me get my point out
Let him
first, and
finish
then
real
you can
quick.
attack it.
All right, and then let him respond.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I lost my train of thought.
Go my little Christian.
So you just cannot draw as straight of a line from the foundational beliefs to the activities of some like the abortion bombers as you can with, say, like the ISIS types. And so it's the real conservative Christian types hear us talk like that, and they know it's silly. And it's like we don't have good common sense about it. And it's like we want to be really multicultural. We don't want to be racist. We don't want to be ethnocentric, all those kind of things. And then we kind of push aside some more humanistic values. And maybe part of it's just courage. You just don't want to take it on because it's kind of scary.
Courage of what? I don't like fucking any religion, so don't put me in any little, oh, well, you need to draw a line. Fuck Christianity and fuck Islam. I'll put that straight out there for you to understand that motherfucking shit. If you go around saying women don't have the choice to have an abortion, fuck you. You're a fucking extremist, okay? I'm going to say it right there. The reason why that fucking dude killed people because he was a fucking religious nutcase, just like these fucking idiots in Syria or whatever they are. Our foreign policy as the West has fucked up the Middle East since fucking God knows when. Because we want our sticky fingers on their sticky fucking oil, if you don't fucking remember that shit. Now, before that, it was religious, right? It was called the Crusades, in case you didn't know what the fuck that was. Let's get to modern day era. You're telling me that motherfucking Americans give a fuck that my country was getting blown up by a bunch of fucking right-wing fucking Christians at this point? Then you're fucking ignorant of the case. The only reason why America even knows there's such thing as fucking Muslims is because you got fucking blown the fuck up on September 11th. Because before that, you were quite happy to ignore the fucking planet. Okay? Let's get that shit straight. So now it's a big deal because Muslims are running the fucking crazy fucking house at the moment. Yeah, these people are fucking nutcases. But when I look at your country, Donald Trump's a fucking nutcase. He's a fucking fucking crazy ass motherfucker.
We breed our own crazy nutcases.
Yeah,
here.
let's put
it's all right.
let's put it in perspective. No,
I thought you were calming down as the hangout went on. You kind of.
I'm calm, but I'm just. You can't say I'm not against Islamic crazy shit when I fucking am. I'm against all your crazy ass ideas that even God exists in the first place.
No one's saying that, but.
Let me ask you a question, Sty. You're familiar with Jainists, I'm sure. Do you think that radical, crazy religious Jainists are just as likely to commit violence because of their faith as, say, a Christian or a Muslim?
It only takes one fucking nutcase, man. Only takes fucking one.
That's where you're missing it, because you cannot draw a line between the content of their source material and the key beliefs, fundamental beliefs.
No, the source material is the problem. If it's in a book that says you can do crazy shit like stone women to death and do all this other crazy shit, you're fucking nuts if you want to read that and believe that some fucking fairy tale exists. If I read Harry Potter, does that make me a wizard, motherfucker? No, it don't. But if it only takes one motherfucker to think he's a wizard, and then Harry Potter becomes fucking as real as your book now, doesn't it?
Part of the Jain thing is nonviolence. So the more crazy they get, the more religiously crazy they get, the more nonviolent they get. It's impossible for them to justify violence using their religion. It's like if a Muslim said, "I knocked over, an alcohol store for Islam." You can't make that connection.
That would be funny. That should be on Saturday Night Live.
All right, so essentially, Myth Radius is saying you can't draw a line. Sty saying I'm drawing the line, and I think that's pretty much how the positions are, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm drawing a line. He's saying, well, you can't justify the same. Yes, I can, because both of your books, if you're a Christian or you're a Muslim, both of your books are full of shit. Okay, let's get that straight. Both of them are full of shit.
They're not equally bad.
That's my line. Both of them.
They're not equally bad in equal ways.
No, they fucking are. They're equally fucking stupid. They equally think that the fucking magical fucking guy, Sky Daddy's gonna come and suck your fucking dick. And no, he ain't. No, he fucking ain't. The problem on the world right now is people like you who justify stupid fucking books like Harry Potter. Fuck off. That's just ridiculous.
All right. Well,
fuck Harry Potter.
I don't think anyone's doing that, but. So anyway, we got about 10 minutes left. I just want to hit this because this is some crazy shit that happened in America. Because that's the land of crazy shit nowadays. I posted a link, and this will be the last topic for the show. Essentially, I think it's a school district. There's a teacher in a school district in Virginia. They had a world religions class, and there was a lesson on Islamic calligraphy, and the lesson pertained to the students copying the calligraphy to understand the complexity of the Islamic writing. Unfortunately, I think it's the Shabada, which is the Muslim prayer for Muhammad, and so the result was parents went apeshit, called the school, and the entire school district shut down. I mean, all the schools within the school district shut down from this, and it's kind of odd to me that they would shut down every single school. Do you agree?
Did you read the article, the entire article, plus the comments?
I know that I read a couple of them. I know for some of them, some of the students were saying that they were pressured into wearing headscarves.
Those are the irrelevant parts. There's one of the comments under the article actually pulled verbatim off the Virginia school curriculum, where they have to understand and be able to describe the main doctrine of Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So you imagine them doing that for all the other ones as well. So one of them, including the Lord's Prayer, which is one of the main centerpieces of Christianity. So they would have done that with something like May the Lord shine His face upon you, or one of those preambles in Judaism, and they would have had to say Brahma is king, or whatever Buddhists say. So this is part of a course, a curriculum designed in 1995 that they still teach. So the Christians got offended, but they're in a public school system, so they can't have it both ways. So they shut everything down because the Christians were threatening, not the Islamists. The Christians were threatening everybody. So, but they're in a public school system teaching world religions, which is part of their curriculum in the high school. So they were doing what they were supposed to do. Did they have to force them? Well, we don't know that. That's hearsay. Until somebody actually sees the teacher saying you have to wear this. Towards the end of one of the comments, or even at the end of the article, they went into a synagogue, and the teacher said that we might not want to make all the boys wear the yarmulkes. So the rabbi said anyone who's not a Jew doesn't need to wear it, and most of the kids took it off. So I kind of doubt the headscarf thing was actually presented the way it actually was. I think there's a little sensationalism on their part, and it's hard to know. But if you read through the article and all the comments, it starts to make a little more sense that it's not quite being presented as black and white as the article wrote.
Yeah, and I do agree. I thought it was more ironic that there were some Christian parents. I looked at a couple of news feeds, and one of the quotes from I think, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said, "I don't want my kid indoctrinated."
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
It's ironic, right? And as a Christian parent, I can't allow that, and it's like.
Right. I laughed so hard when I read that one.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at. But overall, I mean, the shutting down of the school system itself, is that the whole school district, was that over the top, or?
Well, and sadly we live in a culture now where you have to take a death threat seriously. So if somebody was getting death threats for teaching what the Islam religion purports to believe, A, they're ignorant, and B, you've got to take them seriously because you have a culture full of guns down there. Gotcha. I hate to say it that black and white, but I live in the north. I'm in Canada. I don't have this problem down. Somebody threatens a school board here, they're not going to run down there with guns and start shooting people. That's just not how we do it up here. We take them to court. You guys don't have that problem up. You just kill them, and then maybe I was wrong. It's just nuts. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Gabby, what do you think? You're in that area, not necessarily Virginia.
No. Yeah. I'm closer than you are, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's sad, but I don't necessarily think that shutting down the school was
District. The entire school district.
Yeah. Depending on the nature of the threats or uproar over the situation, yeah, that might have been the necessary precaution to take care of it. I don't know is the short answer, and I would rather law enforcement agencies and the school district be over careful rather than let the school be open, and then have kids die or something because of it. So, better safe than sorry in that situation. It's sad, but I would agree with what James just said, that it's sort of the reality that we live in.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that people got so bent out of shape about this is nuts. I do think that it was probably a bad choice to include the Shahada prayer. Yeah, and have the kids like writing that down almost. I don't know. That seemed like an odd choice. You could have had.
Again, the curriculum requires them to know the tenets of the faith, the core tenets of what they believe.
Sure.
That is what they believe. Like
Sure.
the Lord's Prayer is I believe in one God, our Father who art in heaven. That's what they believe. That's what Christians believe.
Right.
So, and Brahma is whatever it says it in the article. What the Buddhist tenet is. It's like that's what they're tested on. They have a final exam, and they will get asked that question. If they don't know it, they flunk the course.
Right.
It's not indoctrinating. This is what they believe.
There's a difference between having them learn the words so that they can put it on a test and actually go through like one of the rituals. I can at least see the difference. If they had the students, perform one of the a Catholic rite or something like that, or that would be. If the students were required to baptize a baby by sprinkling, that crosses the line between learning about it and actually going into the practice. And because this calligraphy is in some way some kind of sacred thing within Islam, and they're having them work on it, that gets into a fuzzy area. I wouldn't object to it if I were the parents, because I don't believe that there's anything magical about it, and I think it's a neat learning experience myself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But from the perspective of parents, that aren't cool with that kind of thing, I think that it was an unnecessary step that they could have done without that and still had the kids learn about it.
That's right. I mean, but again, you're talking about a comparative religious studies course in a public school.
Right.
There's no they want only Christianity taught.
Yeah.
And anything other than that is wrong. Well, I'm sorry, but then take them out and put them in a charter school.
Right.
That's why you have those down there.
It's just, and it's hypocritical.
Absolutely,
to the core.
it is.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that was actually shorter than I thought, but cool. Because we're at the 2-hour mark. So I'm gonna end it here. Does anyone have any final comments? I'm just gonna shut her down.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like.
Shut up, Sty.
Next time, I'm gonna have a little counter, because I want to get a count on Sty's his fuck counter. Like, ding, the little bell, like ding, ding. Put it in the
The problem is, I speak so fast that you think it's longer than it actually is. You've never seen Doctor Who's TARDIS, motherfucker. It's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Absolutely, it is.
Thanks, Floyd. Thanks, Mithridates. Thanks, Gabagai. Thanks, Sty. Thanks, James. And hope y'all have a great weekend. We'll be back probably after the holidays, right? Probably on the 3rd, because
sounds good.
Next week is we go every 2 weeks anyways. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great one.
Adios. Take care.
Dude.